Chapter 326. Yun Xiao's Return 5. My entire body belongs only to her. No one other than her is qualified to touch me. Even if they only touched his trousers. Cezanne's body stiffened as her heartache had already covered the pain of her arms, and she gazed at the unemotional man before her with a heartbroken look. Her heart was gradually being engulfed with jealousy. Yun Luo Feng, why was that woman's luck so great to obtain such a perfect unfeeling man's wholehearted love? While she couldn't even obtain a portion of him. Qin Yuan, Yun Xiao retracted his cold gaze and coldly called, after dealing with her, bring Si Chong along. He had only left for a day. Who knew these people would be so discontented with their lot that they would actually take advantage of his absence to deal with her? He absolutely wouldn't allow anyone to harm her. No, Cezanne screeched in dismay, Father, save me, I don't want to die. I beg you to save me. Listening to the voice of his daughter's begging, Si Chong's body trembled, but he eventually heartlessly turned his head, not sparing her another glance. Stop bawling, it's useless even if you bawl until your throat breaks, Qin Yuan snickered. Cezanne, I've really got to admire your courage. You actually dared to think of dealing with my master's woman. Could it be that your father didn't teach you not to provoke my master? As his words fell, Qin Yuan no longer looked at her. After all, Cezanne was already a dead person in his eyes. Instead, it was an eye-opener for him to see that Si Chong was so ruthless as to not even save his own daughter. Qin Yuan fished out a black pill from his bosom and passed it to Si Chong. Eat this. What's this? Si Chong stared blankly as his gaze turned vigilant. Obviously, it's poison. Do you think I would give you a tonic to consume? Qin Yuan rolled his eyes and smiled in ridicule. Consume this pill without delay and we can be on our way. The words, on our way, easily caused one to think of something else. Si Chong obviously was the type of person who would think of something else. The Ghost Emperor only asked you to take me away and did not ask you to kill me. Furthermore, I have already handed over Cezanne, so why are you killing me? Qin Yuan coldly spoke, who said I'm going to kill you? It's only because a ruthless person like you is incapable of being trusted. As such, you must consume this poisonous pill so that we can control you easily, so as to avoid being stabbed in the back by you. However, the Ghost Emperor did not ask you to do this. Si Chong retreated a few steps, clearly not wanting to consume this black pill. Qin Yuan somewhat impatiently furrowed his eyebrows as his expression was cold. If everything had to be said by our master himself, why would there be a need for us, his subordinates? Hurry up and consume this pill so you can follow us. Otherwise, you can follow and accompany your daughter down to hell. Si Chong hesitated for a long time but ultimately decided to comply with Qin Yuan's order. He extended his trembling hands, took the black pill, and closed his eyes before consuming it. Looking at Si Chong consuming the poisonous pill, Qin Yuan sneered and spoke, are you staying to dig a hole to bury her or are you going to leave with us immediately? Si Chong shook his head, it's fine to throw her in a random burial pit. The mistakes she committed nearly implicated the spirit sect, so she has no right to enter the ancestral hall. Cezanne's body fiercely trembled and her deathly pale face was filled with fear. Apparently, she couldn't believe that her father who had previously loved her dearly would be ruthless to this extent. Not only did he not save her, he didn't even intend to bury her corpse. Chapter 327. Yun Xiao's Return 6. Father, a tiger though cruel, will not devour its cubs. You will definitely receive your retribution for being so heartless and merciless. Cezanne screamed mournfully, and her head full of beautiful hair was messily spread out behind her, staring at Si Chong like a madman. You this rebellious daughter, you offended the Ghost Emperor and still dare to sprout such outrageous words. Si Chong slapped Cezanne's body flying and trampled on her waist. Who told you to offend the Ghost Emperor? If it weren't for you offending him, I wouldn't be forced to consume a poison pill. You harmed me, yet you still dare to lecture me. Retribution, even if there was retribution, it should fall upon a rebellious daughter like you first. One after the other, his feet stomped on Cezanne's body. Cezanne was trampled by him until she spat out blood and her complexion turned ashen. Her ribs had been shattered and she was in so much pain that she couldn't even produce a sound. Qin Yuan hugged his chest with both arms while looking at the good show before him. He seemed to be tired as he had even found a stool and took a seat, while his eyes were filled with the radiance of being in high spirits. Young Master Qin Yuan, this unfilial daughter of mine is too rebellious, so there's no need for you to personally take action. I shall personally punish her myself. Si Chong instantly unsheathed his long sword and suddenly thrust down as Si Zan was looking at him with a heartbroken gaze. Fresh blood shot out from her chest, dyeing his face red. His expression was cold and solemn without any expression. It was as if the person he killed wasn't his daughter but just a stranger. Si Chong, Qin Yuan unhurriedly stood up from the stool. With a self-centered leader like you who doesn't even recognize their own family, it's no wonder my master has been reluctant to take in the spirit sect. Luckily I was wary of you and made you consume a poisonous pill. Otherwise, with your personality, you would bite the back of your own master sooner or later. Oh right, my master isn't your master. You don't even count as his dog. Facing Qin Yuan's mocking and ridicule, Si Chong did not get angry as a flattering smile appeared on his face. Young Master Qin Yuan, you're right. I can't even be considered a dog. Just let me know, where does the Ghost Emperor want me to go? Qin Yuan laughed grimly, of course to the Yun family. As a father, you must offer an apology to our master's woman for the mistakes your daughter committed. If she does not pardon you, you can go and accompany your daughter. Si Chong shuddered involuntarily as he internally cursed Si Zan 1,000 times over. If it weren't for her, he would not have to suffer such punishment. Young Master Qin Yuan, please lead the way and I will apologize to her right now. I can let her hit or scold me as long as she can be appeased. Looking at Si Chong who was acting like a dog, Qin Yuan's smile contained a trace of sarcasm as he turned and walked out from the study room. Hurry up and follow me, if we are late, the master will kill you without waiting for our master's woman to forgive you. Hearing this sentence, Si Chong hastily rushed forth and followed behind Qin Yuan with large strides. General Yun's estate. Within the back garden amid the sounds of spring water flowing, the young lady was seated beside a tree and playing chess alone. After a long time, she lightly sighed as her pitch-black eyes slightly revealed a faint moodiness. Qingyun covered her lips and lightly smiled. Her large, bright eyes looked at Yun Luo Feng without blinking as she asked, Miss, are you thinking of Yun Xiao? The hand that was tightly holding onto the chess piece slightly trembled as Yun Luo Feng unenthusiastically smiled. I'm worried that perhaps Yun Xiao met with some problems. He only mentioned that he would be leaving for a day, but he hasn't returned yet. I can't help being worried about him. After all, the method that Yun Xiao cultivated was comparatively unique. If by any chance he had a breakthrough, with his heaven and spirit method he would enter a deranged state and it was extremely unfavorable for him. Chapter 328. Yun Xiao's Return 7. This was what she was worried about. Oh right. Yun Luofeng lightly raised her brows and she looked toward Yi Ling. The skills of the cook from your estate are pretty good. I originally wanted you to bring him here, but I forgot about it as I was too busy. Ever since I tasted that cooking, even the Yun family's food can't compare. You shall bring that cook into the Yun family sometime later. Yi Ling's gaze revealed a trace of uncertainty. The cook for the third prince's estate was better than the Yun family's. Why was he unaware of that? The cooking of the Yun family's cook had even surpassed the imperial kitchen, so how could those people within the third prince estate compare? Miss, Qingyun prudently shot a glance towards Yun Luofeng. That day, the soup that I brought to you wasn't made by the cooks in the third prince's estate. Yun Luofeng's brows furrowed in a slanted direction. Then who made that soup? It was, Qingyun nibbed on her lips and then spoke resolutely, it was Yun Xiao. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng stared blankly and astonishment flashed through her eyes. Clearly, she did not expect that Yun Xiao would have such excellent cooking skills. Just as she went silent, a familiar aura came from behind her and his unique scent spread in the air. You're aware of it? The man's voice was low and hoarse, gradually sounding in her ears. Yun Luofeng turned and looked at Yun Xiao appearing before her and her pitch-black gaze contained a smiling intent. Yun Xiao, you're back. Yun Xiao stared at Yun Luofeng. At that time, I saw that you weren't accustomed to the Lujin Kingdom's food, so. Yun Xiao, Yun Luofeng interrupted his words, why didn't you tell me earlier that you knew how to cook? Yun Xiao looked deeply at Yun Luofeng. You don't like me doing these things. I was afraid that you would be angry if you knew. Why would I be angry? Yun Luofeng lightly furrowed her eyebrows and questioned after failing to understand. Yun Xiao was silent for a long time. That day, when I prepared bath water for you, you said that was Qingyun's chore. So I thought you did not like me doing these. Yuan Xiao, your cooking is really good, where did you learn it? Young Luo Feng raised the corners of her mouth. This time, she had truly picked up a treasure. Not only were this man's looks of the best quality, his strength was formidable and he was committed to her. Right now, another line had to be added. Not only was he capable of doing what a man was required to do, he could even excel in the kitchen. It seemed as if there was nothing he wasn't capable of. These past few years, I had to manage my own livelihood. In regards to cooking, I learned it when I was trapped in the forest of no return. Yuan Xiao's gaze was serious and concentrated, and both his pitch-black eyes were filled with the young lady's breathtaking silhouette. If you like, I can cook for you every day in the future. Young Luo Feng's voice was very domineering. From now on, you can only make soup for me. What about General Yun? Not giving him any. Young Luo Feng spoke without hesitation, without even giving any leeway to say otherwise. If the old general were to know what she said, he would definitely be angered to the point of being half dead. All right, a faint smile curved up from Yuan Xiao's lips, I shall only cook for you. His smile only blossomed for her alone. His cooking would only be put to use for her alone. I am aware of the matters in the Longyuan kingdom that happened recently. The faint smile on Yuan Xiao's lips disappeared in a flash as if it had never appeared. However, I've already settled it for you. Xizan's dead, and I've brought her father to face you. Chapter 329, Yuan Xiao's Return 8. Young Luo Feng stared blankly. She did not expect the reason for Yuan Xiao's delayed return was because he had gone to the spirit sect to take care of matters for her. This man had always done everything for her without her noticing. Thinking of this, a warm current gushed forth from her heart as her gaze gradually shifted away from Yuan Xiao and landed on the middle-aged man who was walking in large strides behind Qin Yuan. The middle-aged man saw the gorgeous young lady standing before Yuan Xiao in a glance, and a trace of deep astonishment flashed through his eyes. It's no wonder the Ghost Emperor would get angry for this woman, as no one would not be moved by such a gorgeous young lady. Ghost Emperor. Xi Chong walked up hastily and took a deep bow before Yuan Xiao before he looked toward Yuan Luo Feng. Miss Yuan, the previous matters were my daughter's mistakes and I've already punished her. I would like to ask Miss Yuan to forgive our spirit sect. His face carried a flattering smile and no longer had the awe-inspiring authority of being the sect master of the spirit sect. Young Luo Feng lightly raised her brows. Xizan's position within the spirit sect must have been very high, otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to mobilize that many high-level cultivators. Xi Chong's expression was somewhat awkward and his voice contained anxiety, as he was afraid of Young Luo Feng misunderstanding him. Miss Yun, Xizan had the favor of those elders within the spirit sect, therefore they had complied with her assignments. I can vow that I was completely unrelated to those matters. Is that so? The young lady's eyes contained a smiling intent and her pitch-black eyes seemed to be able to see everything clearly as she looked straight at Xi Chong. Xi Chong's heart felt somewhat weak. He indeed knew that his daughter had mobilized the power of the spirit sect, but he was unaware that this matter was related to the Ghost Emperor. Due to the trust he had in his daughter, he had passed his authority within the spirit sect to her. Otherwise, with Xizan's abilities, she did not have the right to mobilize high-level cultivators within the spirit sect. Of course, he would never mention this to Yuan Luo Feng. Miss Yun, I can swear to God, I was absolutely unaware of this. I beg of you to believe in me. Also, I Xi Chong, am willing to work extremely hard for Miss Yun and vow my loyalty and devotion to you. Xi Chong's expression no longer had its previous flattering as it turned exceptionally serious, making it so you couldn't help but believe his words. However, Young Luo Feng would never believe that Xi Chong was totally unaware of Xizan's actions. If he truly was unaware, then he was indeed a worthless sect master of the spirit sect. He can be used. Yuan Xiao spared a glance at Xi Chong as his pitch-black eyes turned towards Young Luo Feng and spoke in a serious tone, I had Qin Yuan feed him a poisonous pill. With the pill to control him, he can never betray you. Young Luo Feng nodded, the Yun family lacks someone to do odd jobs. Since he's willing to work like an ox, then I shall leave him here to do chores. Thank you for your kindness. As the proverb says, better to have a bad life than a good death. As long as he could stay alive, not to mention making him do odd jobs, he would be willing even if he was really asked to work like an ox. Your spirit sect is the backstage supporter of the Longyuan kingdom. May I know how you are going to handle the imperial family's matters? Young Luo Feng languidly leaned on a tree beside her and asked in a smiling yet not smiling manner. Si Chong respectfully replied, I shall let Miss Yun make the decisions. Young Luo Feng lightly rubbed her chin and spoke, the seventh prince of the Longyuan kingdom is pretty good. Although he is a bit young, his wisdom has sufficiently matured. He is also the only person that had placed his safety first, instead of fighting for the throne, during this chaotic time. The mother of the seventh prince of the Longyuan kingdom had passed away early, so he did not have a deep relationship with Gao Tu, who viewed him as a dispensable existence. Chapter 330, Yun Xiao's Return 9. However, he had an outstanding aptitude from an early age, it was just that he was of lowly birth, resulting in Gao Tu not placing him in his eyes. Since Miss Yun has spoken, then the seventh prince shall ascend to be emperor of the Longyuan kingdom. Si Chong smiled in a flattering manner, Miss Yun, may I know if you have other instructions? Young Luo Feng muttered to herself irresolutely for quite a while before she spoke, you shall withdraw with Qingyan. She will instruct you on what you need to do. I understand. Si Chong cupped his hands in salute, with respect across his whole face. Looking towards Qingyan's leaving figure, young Luo Feng turned taciturn. She gazed at the man before her and asked, the spirit sect is the backstage supporter of the Longyuan kingdom, and the Bai family are the people behind the scenes of the Lujin kingdom. Just that, is the strength of the Bai family and the spirit sect the same? The Bai family and the spirit sect are different. Even 100 spirit sects couldn't compare to the Bai family. Why is that? All of a sudden, a handsome yet devilish face appeared within young Luo Feng's mind and her heart gradually sank. There is the existence of Bai Su within the Bai family. Yun Xiao lightly furrowed his brows as his unfeeling gaze turned serious, which was unprecedented. Without Bai Su, the difference between the strength of the Bai family and the spirit sect would not be huge. Bai Su. Young Luo Feng's eyes met with his. He seems to be related to my parents' death, but I do not know his origins. Originally, she thought that the difference between the strength of the Bai family and the spirit sect would not be too huge, but she didn't expect she had thought of things too simply. It was easy to deal with the spirit sect, but if I were to meet the Bai family again, it won't be that easy. Next time, if you meet Bai Su and I'm not by your side, do not battle with him. His unfeeling gaze contained a trace of almost undetectable concern, and his expressionless face also had a faint trace of nervousness. That man was too dangerous. If young Luo Feng were to meet him head-on alone, she would definitely be at a disadvantage. I understand. Young Luo Feng raised her head slowly and met his ice-cold gaze. I will not fight with him alone. Yun Xiao deeply gazed at young Luo Feng. I am having Si Chong stay beside you because his strength isn't considered bad, and he can temporarily protect you when I'm not by your side. When the time comes and you don't need him anymore, he can be dealt with however you would like. Yun Xiao. Young Luo Feng raised her arms and walked forward 2 steps, tightly hugging his body. Thank you. The young lady's soft whispering caused Yun Xiao's body to slightly stiffen. He raised his hands and tightly held her body. At the time when her eyes were downcast, an extremely faint curve tugged on her bewitching red lips. I've said before that I will protect you. Since he had chosen to protect her, he would never let her be harmed. Regardless of whether it was the Bai family or even some other people. Cough, cough. Suddenly, the sound of a dry cough could be heard, and young Luo Feng hastily left Yun Xiao's embrace, looking at the old man who walked in from outside of the courtyard. Grandfather, your mood for enjoyment is indeed strong, to actually come here to disturb your granddaughter training her men. She lightly raised her eyebrows and looked at her grandfather's somewhat awkward face in a smiling yet not smiling manner. You darn girl, I just returned to the Yun family and I heard that you've hired a handyman. Young Luo seemed not to be the slightest bit ashamed of his own actions as he spoke in a lecturing manner. Our Yun family already has enough men, and are you aware how much silver is required to feed those people? Since you don't manage the household, you truly don't understand how expensive rice is. Do you think that this old man's money was picked up off the ground? Young Luo Feng shrugged her shoulders and rebutted, it seems that I was the one who earned the Yun family's money. Young Luo glared at young Luo Feng, what do you mean by you earned it? What's yours is mine, that silver belongs to me too, and also, how much money are you giving that handyman? He's working for free. Young Luo Feng lightly rubbed her nose. Oh, by the way, that handyman's identity is sect master of the spirit sect. Chapter 331. I'm not a stingy person. After hearing the word free, the old man clearly loosened up. Yet, after that, young Luo Feng's words caused him to be stunned and frozen on the spot. What did you just say? The old man stared at young Luo Feng distractedly. At this moment, he suspected that he had a problem with his hearing. What she said just now. That handyman is the sect master of the spirit sect. Was it the spirit sect he was familiar with? Young Luo Feng looked at her grandfather's startled expression and slightly shrugged her shoulders. It is what you're thinking of. The young lady's lackluster tone had fiercely rammed into her grandfather's heart, like a heavy club beating him, until his entire being couldn't process things properly. The old man hesitated for a long time before speaking. For the sect master of the spirit sect to do odd jobs for the Yun family, this is somewhat embarrassing. How about this? I'm not a stingy person and the wages that have to be given must be paid. Housekeeper, record this down to give the newly hired worker a copper coin for his wages every month. The old man had a deadly earnest expression, and the housekeeper who was quietly waiting beside him couldn't help but rebuke him in her thoughts. A copper coin? Are you trying to send away a beggar? To think that the general would say these words. There's no need for that. Young Luo Feng tugged the corner of her lips and smiled devilishly while looking at the old man's pained expression. He would even be willing if you were to ask him to fork out money. Giving him wages would instead cause him to feel uneasy. The old man nodded his head in approval. Since that's the case, I better keep this copper coin, at least I can still buy a scallion with it. Alright, the both of you can continue hanging out, I will not disturb you. Housekeeper, hurry and support me, my legs feel somewhat feeble. Yes, General. The housekeeper walked up and lent an arm to support the old man as they walked out of the courtyard at an exasperatingly slow pace. The old man was clearly still shocked at this moment, and as such, his footsteps were feeble. If it weren't for the housekeeper lending an arm to support him, perhaps he might have fallen at any time. Despite how serious he had acted earlier on, he had in fact been shocked silly by young Luo Feng's words. No one would have ever expected that the awe-inspiring sect master of the spirit sect would be doing odd jobs for the Yun family. Yun Xiao, seeing the old man's disappearing figure, young Luo Feng's eyes gradually swept towards Yun Xiao. You have yet to tell me, where have you been these 2 days? Yun Xiao paused for a moment before speaking. I just received news that the Xiao family has arrived in the Longyuan kingdom. Therefore, I went to investigate this matter. You can rest assured, I will never let these people disrupt you. If the Xiao family disturbed her, he wouldn't mind destroying them entirely. Yun Xiao, young Luo Feng raised her eyebrows and a trace of cold glimmer flashed through her eyes. Since people of the Xiao family have come looking, then we shall look for the appropriate timing to meet them. How about it? I also want to know, what is the reason that they are looking for you? Yun Xiao lightly pursed his thin lips, as his pitch-black eyes gazed deeply into young Luo Feng's eyes. Since you want to meet them, I am willing to accompany you. If you are not fond of them, then I shall destroy them. Young Luo Feng shook her head. Yun Xiao, do you want to meet your mother? Mother. For Yun Xiao, these 2 words were extremely unfamiliar. However, his mother was the only one who cared about him in the past within the Xiao family. It's a pity that his mother did not have a position within the Xiao family, so she was unable to protect him when he was young. She's not at the Xiao family. Yun Xiao's eyes were unfeeling and still as water. Ever since that year when I was chased out of the Xiao family, she also disappeared. No one knew where she went. Ever since he left the forest of no return, it wasn't that he did not return to look for her secretly. However, the news he managed to obtain was that she had already disappeared several years ago and even the Xiao family was not aware of her whereabouts. Chapter 332. The price of harming him. Young Luo Feng was silent for a long time and an unknown glimmer flashed in her eyes. Your mother went missing after you left the Xiao family. As such, we can only find out your mother's whereabouts by heading to the Xiao family. More importantly, I want to make those who harmed you pay the price. The young lady's determined voice caused Yun Xiao's heart to feel warm and the corner of his lips slightly raised up, forming a faint curve. All right. Young Luo Feng no longer said anything else as a glimmer that contained killing intent flashed in her eyes. Right now, as long as she thought of the torment that Yuan Shao had suffered, she couldn't help but want to dismember the bodies of those who harmed him before. Especially that woman who threw him into the forest of no return. Yuan Shao, when will the people from the Xiao family arrive? Luo Feng coldly chucked. When they arrive, I will have to receive them properly. Probably these next few days. Yuan Shao's eyes were deep and unfeeling. Furthermore, the influence of the Xiao family is wide. Therefore, they should be aware that I'm in the imperial city of the Longyuan kingdom, but they don't know I'm in the general's estate. Luo Feng asked while being startled. You left the Xiao family when you were 7, so how did they know you're here? After he heard this question, his callous aura abruptly exploded, with his black robes flying around, and he was like a wild animal in the night that could tear its enemies into pieces anytime. The Xiao family can find me via my bloodline. For a huge family like the Xiaos, the purity of their bloodline was very important. Furthermore, they could determine the location of the person they wanted to look for. However, looking for a person via their bloodline could only reveal a general direction and could not accurately discern the other party's location. As such, the Xiao family only managed to find the Longyuan kingdom after searching for so long. Yuan Shao, leave this matter to me. An eerie smile curved from Luo Feng's lips. I will make them regret having set foot in the Longyuan kingdom. All right. Towards the Xiao family, Yuan Shao did not have any feelings for them. Since now Luo Feng wanted to play with them, what harm was there in indulging her? After she had her fun, he would then appear to wind things up for her. Luo Feng slightly raised her eyes and gazed the person standing before her and asked, Yuan Shao, do you hate the Xiao family? Hate. Yuan Shao slightly furrowed his brows and a cold glimmer flashed through his eyes. 10 years ago when he had been chased out of the Xiao family and thrown into the forest of no return, he had indeed hated those people. Because at that time he still cared for the Xiao family. As such, he had hated them for being ruthless, and hated that woman even more for snatching his mother's position. However, right now he no longer had any feelings towards the Xiao family. He was even glad that he had left them 10 years ago. Otherwise, he would not have his current achievements. Whereas for his mother, leaving the Xiao family was perhaps her way of relief. I don't hate them. Yuan Shao's eyes were serious. If I did not leave the Xiao family that year, I would not have the strength that I have right now. Then, I would not have sufficient strength to protect you. Luo Feng's lips curved in a slight arc as she walked towards him slowly and her arms tightly hugged the man before him. She then spoke as her eyes looked downwards. I hate the Xiao family, and I hate everyone who has harmed you before. Therefore, I will not let them off. Chapter 333. Xiao family's arrival 1. Yuan Shao kept silent without speaking, and his black eyes all along stared at the young lady within his embrace. He didn't hate the Xiao family, but it didn't mean that he would let them off. Merely, within his eyes, the Xiao family was an expendable existence. Master. Just then, Qin Yuan's voice suddenly sounded and after that, his body flipped over the enclosure and knelt before Yuan Shao. Reporting to Master, the Xiao family has already entered the imperial city. Having heard what was said, Luo Feng's expression suddenly turned solemn, and the smile on her lips was wicked and sinister as she coldly spoke, Xiao family. I didn't think they would arrive this fast. Yi Ling, pass down an order saying that all the inns within the imperial city are not allowed to receive the Xiao family. If anyone dares to violate this, chase them out of the Longyuan kingdom. Yes. Yi Ling cupped his hands in salute and spoke respectfully. Looking at the arrogant and domineering young lady before him, Yuan Shao's lips slightly moved. The Xiao family is powerful, I shall let Qin Yuan protect you. No need for that, Luo Feng raised the corner of her lips, I know my limits. Then I'll leave it to you. As long as she was happy, regardless of whatever she did, he would support her without any conditions. Qin Yuan opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but he received Yuan Shao's icy glare, causing him to instantly shut his mouth. Qingyan, let's go. Luo Feng languidly stretched her waist and her narrowed eyes contained a dangerous glint. I'd better replenish and store my energy, so I can deal with those people from the Xiao family. The brilliant sunlight poured down and covered every corner of the courtyard. After Luo Feng finished her sentence, she brought Qingyan and walked towards the backyard direction. Qin Yuan only faced Yuan Xiao after waiting for the young lady's figure to completely disappear, and he asked hesitatingly, "Master, why did you not tell her that the Xiao family has that item in their hands? If by any chance they fly into a rage out of humiliation, Master, your life will be in danger." All along, Yuan Xiao had stared in the direction that young Luo Feng left as his slightly raised lips were stiffly curved. His handsome face was expressionless as if his face was paralyzed. "The Xiao family cannot threaten me." His words implied, regardless of what young Luo Feng did, he would not prohibit her. Instead, he would support her in silence behind her back. "Is there news of her?" Yuan Xiao back-faced Qin Yuan and asked coldly. In his words, her, naturally meant his mother who had also disappeared after he left. Hearing the question, Qin Yuan replied prudently. "Master, our men have searched numerous places, but there is still no news about Madame's whereabouts." Yuan Xiao's voice was muffled and hoarse and sounded unconcerned, causing Qin Yuan to raise his vigilance and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. "Master, your subordinate is incapable. Please punish me." He hastily knelt on the ground and asked while trembling with fear. "You shall follow beside Fenger in the future." Yuan Xiao's unfeeling gaze swept past Qin Yuan's body. "If she were to be harmed in the slightest, you shall end your life." He didn't dare to imagine what would have awaited her if it weren't for the Ning family rushing here and making it on time 2 days ago. He would never allow such things to happen again. If something had happened to young Luo Feng, he didn't know what crazy things he would have done. "Yes, Master." Qin Yuan wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and spoke respectfully. On the bustling and lively streets, 2 young men and a woman were leading a group of men into an inn. After a short period of time, the sound of angry words could be heard from the inn. Chapter 334. Xiao family's arrival 2. On what basis are you not allowing us to check in? Within the inn, a young lady's arms were on her hips as she stared angrily at the inn's boss, with flames of fury sprouting from her eyes. "My apologies, our inn has been fully booked and is unable to accommodate you. How about making do with staying in the stables?" The young lady was angered to the point that her pretty face became thoroughly red. This damned inn actually dared to let someone as respectable as her to stay in the stables. For a noble person like her, she must stay in the most luxurious room and other places were not worthy of her identity. "Nonsense, I clearly saw someone checking in earlier on, so why can't we?" "Kiki," the inn's boss laughed twice and politely rejected, "Unfortunately, that customer took our last available room and you came too late. As such, I can only ask you to put up with it. Otherwise, how about visiting other inns?" The young lady narrowed her eyes, and a strong killing intent was revealed from within. Just when she wanted to take action, she was stopped by a man beside her. "Forget it," the man shook his head. "Yaoer, let's look for other inns. This is not the only inn in the Longyuan kingdom." But Ling Yao was still unwilling as she angrily stomped her foot. "These secular people are truly ignorant. They should have immediately cleared out all the customers when a respectable person like me arrived here and let us select the best room. I didn't expect they would actually chase us away." In her entire lifetime, Ling Yao had never experienced such humiliation. Within the spirit domain, as the princess of the Ling family, who wouldn't yield to her? She didn't expect that when she came to the secular world, these people actually dared to not give her any face. How would she be able to endure this? "Forget it." Xiao Jing pulled on Ling Yao's sleeves and shook his head. "Don't forget that we are on a task for our trip here, so it's better to not cause trouble. Besides, this isn't the only inn here, we can always look for other inns to stay in." After saying this, Xiao Jing pulled Ling Yao who was still fuming outside, but what they did not expect was that all the inns in the imperial city were full, and there were none that they could stay in. Ling Yao was thoroughly enraged as she gnashed her teeth in anger. "What rundown place is this? If it weren't because the Xiao family is looking for that trash, I would absolutely never come to such a place." Ling Yao was accustomed to preferential treatment within the family and had never encountered such matters before. It was no wonder that she was extremely angry. "Yaoer," a trace of pondering flashed across Xiao Jing's unflustered face, "this matter is too coincidental. There's nothing important happening within the Longyuan kingdom, so why are all the inns fully booked? I suspect there is someone manipulating this behind the scenes." Ling Yao snorted and her delicate face was filled with disdain. "Who has such courage to dare to oppose us from the spirit domain? That trash from your Xiao family. Just based on that trash, where would he have such strength? Furthermore, we were secretive about this matter of us coming to the Longyuan kingdom, it's impossible that trash could have known. When Ling Yao was mentioning Yuan Shao, her face was filled with disdain. Although 10 years ago, that trash had a perfect-looking face. However, a trash was ultimately a trash. Generally speaking, for such a trash that could not cultivate and did not have any strength, she would never spare him another glance. The type of man that she admired must not only have a handsome and beautiful face but also be powerful. Only those type of men were worthy of her with her noble status. Chapter 335, Fiance 1. Xiao Jing slightly furrowed his eyebrows and ordered in a serious tone, Ling Yao, other than looking for that trash, you have to break off your engagement with him. Upon hearing this, Ling Yao couldn't help but get angry. I truly don't know what my grandfather was thinking, to actually set an arranged marriage between me and that trash. Furthermore, I was unaware of this for so many years. If it weren't for Xiao Yuqing's return this time and grandfather wanting me to marry him, he never would have told me about this. For families like the Lings and the Xiaos, they regarded arrangements seriously. If she wanted to marry Xiao Yuqing, it was a must to break off this prior arranged marriage. After hearing that the Xiao family wanted to look for this trash, she had volunteered to undertake this task and followed them. That trash should also be unaware of this matter. Xiao Jing's furrowed eyebrows became increasingly wrinkled. Regardless of whether he agrees or not, your engagement must be broken off. That year, as Yuan Shao's parents were geniuses of 1 out of 10,000, the Ling family head had proposed to have a marriage arranged between them at a young age. Simply put, this matter was only known by the older generation of the two families. It did not occur to them that Yuan Shao would actually be a trash. Therefore, this matter had been delayed from then on. If it weren't because the Ling family wanted Ling Yao and Xiao Yuqing to be connected via marriage, they never would have revealed this matter. It's for the best if he doesn't know, Ling Yao snorted. If he knew that from a young age we had an arranged marriage between us, then he would definitely relentlessly pester me. Otherwise, for a trash like him, what woman would be willing to get married to him? Not necessarily. He had an outstanding appearance since he was young and it wouldn't be a problem for him to become a son-in-law. Xiao Jing's mind recalled his face and the corner of his lips curved slightly but his eyes were filled with disdain. Ling Yao sneeringly raised the corner of her lips. I reckon that a woman who would take a liking to that trash wouldn't be much better. If she weren't a trash like him, then she must be a lecherous person, and how good can someone like that be? Her words implied that it was impossible for Yuan Shao to find a good woman. Unfortunately, such a trash was not someone she would take a fancy to. Alright, let's not discuss that trash now. The top priority job is to settle our accommodation for the day. Once we have settled down properly, then we can search for the trash's whereabouts. Xiao Jing looked at Ling Yao standing before him as he gradually opened his mouth to speak. However, all the inns are fully booked, so where can we search for a place to lodge for the night? Ling Yao pouted her lips and her face was full of unwillingness. Xiao Jing deeply pondered for a long time before a trace of a glimmer flashed through his eyes. He walked to a house with quick steps and knocked 3 times. Kriak. The door was pushed open and a middle-aged man walked out in a foul mood and asked angrily, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" "I want to buy your house," Xiao Jing faintly smiled. Scram, the middle-aged man waved his hand impatiently. "I'm not selling this house and you better not have come here to cause trouble." 10 million. A tranquil and calm yet confident smile was on Xiao Jing's lips. Sure enough, after hearing his words, the middle-aged man's eyes lit up as he fiercely swallowed his saliva. "You're really willing to buy my house for 10 million? Clearly, he did not believe there would be someone foolish enough to use 10 million taels to buy an old house. Xiao Jing no longer said anything as he took out a banknote from the sleeve of his robes and handed to the middle-aged man. "Here is 10 million. Everything in your house belongs to me, and you can leave now." Chapter 336, Fiance 2. The middle-aged man hastily snatched the banknote and looked at it carefully to verify its authenticity. After determining that this banknote was indeed genuine, he stuffed it into his sleeve without delay and left in a hurry without even tidying up his place. Xiao Jing disdainfully glanced at the middle-aged man's hastily leaving figure and slowly looked back to Ling Yao. "In this way, we have a place to stay. What comes next would be to search for the trash's whereabouts. Ling Yao furrowed her eyebrows. However, we haven't seen that trash for over 10 years, and even if he were to appear before us, we might not recognize him. Rest assured, Xiao Jing smiled mysteriously, I have something in my hands and with this, I can recognize him if he was to appear before me. Having heard what was said, Ling Yao sighed with relief, that's good. For mine and Yu Qing's happiness, I must find the trash as quickly as possible to break off our engagement. Only the #1 genius of the Xiao family like Yu Qing is worthy of me. Xiao Yuqing, the #1 genius of the Xiao family, was the ideal man for countless women, and she was also included in that group. If that trash had some self-awareness, he should not pester her and agree to break off the engagement. Rest assured, Xiao Jing patted on Ling Yao's shoulders to comfort her, even if he pestered you after meeting you, the Xiao family has the means to make him give up. It's absolutely necessary for the Xiao and Ling family to be connected by marriage, but your marriage partner will definitely not be that trash. I hope so. Right now, as long as she thought of that trash, a trace of loathing would flash through her eyes. If it weren't to break off their engagement, she wouldn't be willing to meet the trash in her entire life. Let's go in and rest first. Xiao Jing slightly narrowed his eyes, whereas for that trash, I will find him very soon. Within the general's estate, a young lady was seated under the peach tree while closing her eyes and resting within the back garden. A faint spiritual energy lingered over her entire body and was absorbed via her pores. Suddenly, the young lady heard fast footsteps heading towards her direction and she slightly opened her eyes, with her black pupils landing on the servant maid walking in. How are things? Young Luo Feng lightly raised her brows and questioned. Miss, Qingyan's delicate face was frowning, I had already passed down instructions and all the inns did not dare to accommodate them. However, that man from the Xiao family took out a banknote and bought a house. Understood. An abstruse glimmer appeared within young Luo Feng's pitch-black eyes, making it impossible for others to comprehend her thoughts. After a long time, the corner of her lips curved up and her slightly narrowed eyes contained a dangerous glint. It's time to meet these two people from the Xiao family. Qingyan blinked her eyes, Miss, are you thinking of taking actions against those people from the Xiao family? Based on what reason? Reason, young Luo Feng lightly smiled, don't forget, I'm the #1 dandy in the Longyuan kingdom, do I need a reason to hit someone? I just purely don't see eye to eye with them. Qingyan, rouse up the core as we are about to deal with a major matter. She, young Luo Feng, never needed a reason to hit someone, and she purely didn't see eye to eye with these people. Furthermore, who could do anything to her? Qingyan's eyes shined, her miss was simply too domineering. It seemed like there are still many things she had to learn from her, especially the spirit of being shameless. Chapter 337. Don't need a reason to beat you up. Within the courtyard, Ling Yao tightly furrowed her eyebrows and sized up the entire house with a face filled with disdain. This house is too worn down and is totally incomparable to the Ling family's residence. Take a look at this, there are actually ants on this floor. It's simply too disgusting. Ling Yao raised her foot and ruthlessly pulverized the ant under her feet. Afterward, she took off her own shoe, along with a handkerchief to wipe the soles of her feet. It was as if the ant that was crushed by her was something disgusting. Yaoer, I had previously surveyed for a long time when we were looking for an inn. This is the best house in the vicinity, so we should just put up with it. After all, how can the worldly stuff be compared to the spirit domain? Xiao Jing shook his head helplessly. Ling Yao was the princess of Ling family, having been pampered and spoiled since childhood. She had never been subjected to any unfair treatment and the clothes she wore were woven silk fabrics, while the food she ate was culinary delicacies. Based on her finicky personality, she shouldn't have come to such a place together with him. Ling Yao opened her mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but at this moment, an orderly group of footsteps could be heard from outside the door. Shortly after, a crowd of men rushed in and surrounded the entire courtyard. Xiao Jing's brows creased as he coldly gazed at everyone who rushed in and he solemnly asked, "Who are you?" In a flash, the crowd who surrounded the courtyard dispersed in two directions and revealed a path in the middle. After that, a breathtaking young lady in white robes strolled in. That young lady was extremely gorgeous, with a head full of beautiful hair flowing down like a waterfall, and skin fair as jade, while the smiling intent on her lips was devilish yet languid. Her pair of pitch-black eyes were shining brightly like the stars of the night skies, and her graceful face contained dominance. Even Xiao Jing, who had seen countless beauties, couldn't help but reveal a trace of astonishment. Merely, his astonishment only lasted for a fleeting moment, as his eyes concentrated towards her. This woman is very dangerous. She was just like a fox hidden in the darkness, whose appearance looked calm but in actual fact, would stab you in the back when you weren't paying attention. Even those strong people within the spirit domain had never caused him to feel such a dangerous perception. Who allowed you to enter my property? Furthermore, why are you here? Not waiting for Yun Luofeng to answer Xiao Jing's words, Ling Yao immediately jumped forth and angrily glared at Yun Luofeng and others. Facing Ling Yao, whose fury could be seen across her whole face, Yun Luofeng's thin lips moved. We came here in order to beat all of you up. Ling Yao didn't expect that Yun Luofeng wanted to beat people up with just a brief remark, and her delicate face instantly changed. Just when she was about to unsheath the long sword on her waist, a hand extended out and stopped her. Lady, Xiao Jing furrowed his brows, may I know if we had offended you, causing you to act this way? You did not offend me. However, you offended my man. Yun Luofeng did not say the last sentence out loud as she crossed her hands over her chest, with her posture being indolent. Her pitch-black eyes were full of smiling intent. It was just that under her smile was a concealed and ample dangerous aura. Xiao Jing's heart sank. Since we did not offend you, and since you want to attack us, you should at least provide me a reason. Yun Luofeng shot a slanted glance towards Xiao Jing, and her voice was apathetic as before but could easily entice others' rage. My apologies, I've never required a reason to beat someone up. She paused for a moment and the smiling intent in her eyes increased. If you insist on wanting a reason, then it would be that I don't see eye to eye with you. Ling Yao was nearly angered to the point of madness. She had never seen such a rude woman who regarded it so proper and expected as a matter of course. Immediately, she fiercely glared at Yun Luofeng. Darn girl, just based on that. A trash like you, yet you want to teach me a lesson. You. Chapter 338. Ling Yao was beaten. 1. Slap. Harshly slapped, Ling Yao was totally stunned. Gaping and speechless, she looked dumbfounded at the gorgeous girl who suddenly appeared in front of her, her eyes full of shock. 4. At that moment, before she could catch Yun Luofeng's action, her figure suddenly disappeared. Like a breeze, she had appeared in front of her. How fast did she have to be in order to be capable of this? Yaoer, feeling his heart miss a beat, Xiao Jing rushed to Ling Yao's side. With a frown, he asked anxiously, how are you doing? Are you all right? Xiao Jing's voice finally brought Ling Yao back. Realizing that she was actually slapped by someone, she became furious and jumped out at Yun Luofeng ferociously, with a mad look. Bitch, how dare you beat me? I'm going to kill you. No one has dared to beat me since my childhood. I swear I'll kill you. With bloodshot eyes, she looked like a cannibal beast, clawing at Yun Luofeng's face, her eyes filled with madness. However, just when she was going to reach Yun Luofeng grabbed her by the arm and slammed her body into the ground. Bang! Ling Yao's head bumped against the ground, making a thud. When had Ling Yao ever endured such a grievance? It was so painful that she burst into tears, and before she could get to her feet, Yun Luofeng's feet had tread hard on her chest. As she tread, Ling Yao yelled out loud with pain, her bloodshot eyes brimming with killing intent. Bitch, how dare you do this to me? My family will never let you go. Yun Luofeng slightly raised her eyebrow and exerted a greater force with her right foot. Immediately, Ling Yao gave a shrill cry. Breaking into a cold sweat, she could not even speak. Stop it. Finally coming back from shock, Xiao Jing said with a black look, Miss, give some leeway to others and spare yourself a lot of trouble afterward. Don't go too far. I'm sure you will regret provoking our spirit domain. Xiao Jing thought on hearing the name of spirit domain, Yun Luofeng would be frightened. Unfortunately, the girl didn't respond to his words at all, as if she did not hear him. Xiao Jing's eyes darkened, and he waved his hand and coldly ordered, Guards, stop her. Yes, master. Hearing his order, the people of the Xiao clan standing behind him quickly rushed to Yun Luofeng. However, when they were going to reach Yun Luo Feng, the people of the two corps suddenly stood out, protecting Yun Luo Feng like statues in front of her. Boom! A powerful aura overwhelmingly swept through the courtyard. After feeling the aura of these people, Xiao Jing's face changed violently and his eyes turned solemn. High-level spirit cultivators. There are 10 high-level spirit cultivators here. When did high-level spirit cultivators become so cheap in the Longyuan kingdom? Although the Xiao clan had more high-level spirit cultivators and still dozens of sky-level spirit cultivators, 10 high-level spirit cultivators added up were still a great force in the Longyuan kingdom. After all, from what he knew of the Longyuan kingdom, there seemed to be only 2 high-level spirit cultivators in this country. As one of the outstanding disciples of the Xiao clan, he had become a high-level intermediate-rank spirit cultivator a few months ago. However, there were too many of them, so he could hardly deal with all of them. Xiao Jing's eyes flickered and he said threateningly, "Miss, the Xiao clan has a lot of sky-level spirit cultivators and so does the Ling clan. If you insist on this, you will cause a big trouble for yourself." Chapter 339. Ling Yao was beaten too. Facing Xiao Jing's threat, Yun Luo Feng responded with an action. Slap. Once again, her hand was slapping Ling Yao's face. In just a moment, the cheeks of Ling Yao were swollen, which made her look like a pig. It hurt so bad that she couldn't utter a single word. She was glaring at Yun Luo Feng, her red eyes full of enraged tears. If looks could kill, maybe Yun Luo Feng would have been cut into pieces by her glaring look. Even though Xiao Jing was good at controlling his temper, he was so enraged by Yun Luo Feng that he nearly went up in flames, his face all black with rage. "Don't blame me for being rude if you keep provoking us." Xiao Jing clenched his fists and rushed towards Yun Luo Feng, a killing intent flickering across his fierce eyes. Boom. All of a sudden, the girl in front of him raised her eyes and glanced at him with a wicked look. In an instant, a powerful force poured into his mind, leaving his mind blank. Bang! Yun Luo Feng lifted her foot, mercilessly kicking at Xiao Jing's chest, and his body immediately flew out and slammed against the wall. Appearing as if the kick seriously injured him, he began to vomit blood ceaselessly. Beat them. Glancing at Xiao Jing who was struggling on the ground, Yun Luo Feng cracked a wicked smile. "Don't kill them. These two people cannot die so fast." "Yes, master." Hearing her order, the members of the two corps were all rubbing their hands and walking to Xiao Jing lying on the ground with sinister smiles. "You, don't come over." Xiao Jing was frightened and trembling all over. If confronted with these people previously, he wouldn't fear them. After all, the most powerful one of these people was just a high-level low-rank spirit cultivator. However, Yun Luo Feng's kick had inflicted 10,000 points of damage to his body. Now he couldn't even get to his feet, let alone fight with these people. Realizing that the situation was unfavorable to them, the people of the Xiao clan wanted to save Xiao Jing. However, they were stopped by the people of the two corps before they could reach Xiao Jing. What awaited them was simply a ravaging. They suffered from this because Xiao Jing was too confident. He didn't think there was any person strong enough to worry about in the Longyuan kingdom, so he didn't take any strong guards with him. The strongest one of the guards he took with him was just a high-level low-rank spirit cultivator. That was why the guards of the Xiao clan guard couldn't even defend themselves. Bang! Punched in the face by almost every one of the two corps, Xiao Jing's teeth had been knocked out. His right cheek was swollen like a steamed bun, and his mouth was bleeding. No longer looking at Xiao Jing, Yun Luo Feng turned her eyes to the girl in front of her and slightly raised her eyebrows. "I allow you to choose a way of being abused." Ling Yao shook her head in horror. "No, I'm from the Ling family, I." Bang! The girl's fist fell and slammed down on Ling Yao, stopping the words on the tip of her tongue. Vomiting a mouthful of blood, Ling Yao glared at Yun Luo Feng furiously, the blood dripping from her mouth dyeing her clothes red. At this moment, trembling all over, she was burning with rage. This bitch, she would never let her go. Bang! Yun Luo Feng's fist once again fell. Ling Yao's body shook and she slightly closed her eyes, her beautiful face ghastly pale. With each punch, Yun Luo Feng felt that the anger in her heart had been vented a little bit. Every time she thought of the torture Yun Xiao had suffered over the years, her heart was filled with hatred. Chapter 340. Ling Yao was beaten. 3. The Xiao family. One day, she would wipe out the Xiao family and avenge Yun Xiao. But it wasn't the time yet. Yun Luo Feng took a deep breath, repressed the anger that was boiling inside her, and she turned her eyes to Ling Yao, who had been badly beaten. Xiao Jing, however, was no better. His clothes torn to pieces, his skin all black and blue and his body trembling, he just didn't have any strength to fight back. To escape from the beating, he concealed his inner hatred, his eyes as deep as a bottomless well. Take it. Taking out a black pill from somewhere, young Luo Feng ordered coldly. A look of horror flashing through Ling Yao's eyes, she shook her head frantically, sobbing in despair. Laughing wickedly, young Luo Feng exerted a strong grip on Ling Yao's chin, forced her mouth open, and forced the pill into it. Qingyan, make all of them take the pills. Young Luo Feng took out a handful of pills, a wicked smile hovering on her lips. After taking the pills, your lives will be in my hands. If any of you dares to leak what happened today, I will let him experience the pain of being gnawed by 10,000 insects. Before coming here, young Luo Feng had told Yuan Xiao that she knew how far she should go. With her current strength, she still couldn't confront a great power like the Xiao family. That was why she prepared these pills. With them, she could control these people. After all, she would not put herself in danger just to vent out her anger. She loved her life. She would be reckless only if there was no danger. Xiao Jing lowered his eyes, and instead of resisting like Ling Yao, he swallowed the pill. He understood that he was now the fish on the chopping block. If he refused it, what awaited him would be a harsher punishment. Thus, he'd better just take the pill so as not to be tortured. Seeing that Xiao Jing had swallowed the pill, the other people of the Xiao family had no choice but reluctantly take the pills. Their faces were pale, and some of them were even rolling on the ground in pain. Who the hell are you? Struggling to his feet, Xiao Jing glared at young Luo Feng with a serious look. Raising the corners of her lips, young Luo Feng glanced at Xiao Jing with a wicked look. The first dandy of the Longyuan kingdom, that's me. As everyone knows, I don't need a reason to beat someone. As long as I find a person unpleasing to my eyes, I will beat them. At the moment, Xiao Jing's head had swollen like a pig's head, so no one could tell his expression, but it was clear from his eyes that he did not believe young Luo Feng's words. Young Luo Feng lazily stretched herself and said, I hope you can stay a few days longer in the Longyuan kingdom because beating you makes me feel so good. Ling Yao's body shook in horror, and finally learning her lesson, she just bit her lip and didn't utter a single word. Let's go. After saying this, young Luo Feng went out of the courtyard. The people of the two corps briskly walked away behind her. Xiao Jing, shall we just pretend nothing had happened? I can't force myself to forget this. Ling Yao opened her mouth with difficulty, but when she spoke, she accidentally pulled at the wound on her face, and she couldn't help but take a deep breath from the pain. Chapter 341, Leaving Overnight. Xiao Jing was no better. His handsome face was swollen like a pig's head and he was ragged, with wounds and bruises all over his body. But his eyes were so unfathomably deep that Ling Yao felt her heart miss a beat when looking into his eyes. Xiao Jing. Ling Yao swallowed and tried to say something, but was interrupted by the man's cold eyes. What do you want? If you don't let it go, don't forget the pill we just swallowed. If you don't force yourself to forget it, who knows what will happen to us again? Xiao Jing was a little annoyed. Even now, he still had no clue how he had offended that crazy woman and therefore suffered such a mad retaliation from her. After saying this, he was silent again. After a while, his brows tightly knitted, he said, now let's go back to the Xiao family first. Ling Yao was still reluctant, her eyes burning with rage. We're here to find the trash. What about the trash if we go back now? Your grandfather told you to listen to me when he agreed to allow you to come with me. If you don't want to go back, that's fine. I'll leave, and you can stay here alone. Don't forget what that crazy woman just said. She said we should stay here a few days longer, so she could beat us for a few more days. Xiao Jing gnashed his teeth, but couldn't do anything, because he was simply no match for that woman. The top priority now was to return to the Xiao family, in case that crazy woman came after them again. Ling Yao stomped her foot. No matter how reluctant she was, she had no choice but to quickly leave the courtyard behind Xiao Jing. In the general's estate, after hearing that Ling Yao and Xiao Jing had left overnight, young Luo Feng's face lit up with a wicked smile, a scheming light flickering across her dark eyes. You think you can just get away with it after hurting Yuan Xiao? If I don't make some trouble for you, I'm afraid you'll still be nagging Yuan Xiao. What do you have planned, miss? Qingyan blinked and asked her curiously. Not answering her question, young Luo Feng just smiled and said, Qingyan, I'm going to go out. Prepare me a change of clothes and a bamboo hat. Though Qingyan was very curious, she didn't ask much. She knew her miss would always be right no matter what she was going to do. As gentle as water, the night was quiet and beautiful. Leading their subordinates, Xiao Jing and Ling Yao were walking quickly in the darkness, as if it was a place of savages and they couldn't wait to leave here. Unfortunately, because all of them were badly injured, they had to stop and go, advancing very slowly. Therefore, they were still walking in the ancient trees outside the imperial city after several hours. Ling Yao, hang on, when we leave this place, we can find a clinic to heal our wounds, said Xiao Jing, frowning at Ling Yao who was panting beside him. If it hadn't been for the Ling family's old man who had asked him to take care of Ling Yao, he might have left her alone. But I can't walk anymore. Ling Yao lay down against a tree, her face ghastly pale. The bruises on her body had not yet faded, so her skin was still all black and blue. The blood stains on her clothes had dried and turned brown. Ling Yao, Xiao Jing's brows were knitted more tightly, if you don't want to meet that crazy woman again, get up now. Who knows when that maniac could jump out of nowhere. Apparently, Xiao Jing was really afraid of young Luo Feng. Chapter 342, Framing Up 1. Okay. Gritting her teeth, Ling Yao stood up from the ground. Every time she thought of young Luo Feng, she freaked out, wishing she could rush over to the woman and rip her into pieces. However, she knew that with her own strength, she couldn't avenge herself. Moreover, since taking that pill, she could not use the power of her family. Let's go. Xiao Jing looked away and walked slowly towards the woods in front of him. However, Ling Yao seemed to be absent-minded. Biting her lips, she stared at her toes, eyes wandering. Bang! Suddenly a figure appeared in front of her and caught off guard, so she violently bumped against them. At the same time, the other side released a powerful aura, knocking her body into the air. Boom! Ling Yao had been seriously injured. With this blow, she spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. Ling Yao, Xiao Jing's face violently changed. He hurried to Ling Yao and lifted her trembling body up, his icy eyes sweeping to the crasher who had suddenly appeared in the woods. Her white robe was fluttering in the gentle breeze, and her head was covered with a white bamboo hat, so Xiao Jing could not tell if the person in a white robe was male or female. Xiao Jing's eyes darkened and he asked coldly, "Who are you?" Under the bamboo hat, a faint smile was hanging on the girl's gorgeous face, her dark eyes crystal clear and bright. She deliberately lowered her voice to make it low and hoarse, with a tinge of ruffian tone. She bumped into me because she wasn't watching where she was walking, so I just taught her a lesson. Perhaps because she had deliberately changed her voice, she sounded quite manly, and Xiao Jing thought this person must be a man. Ling Yao was wrong. She should have watched where she was walking. But are you totally innocent? You were so spooky that we couldn't say exactly when you appeared. How can you blame Ling Yao for bumping into you? In the breeze, the girl's bamboo hat was lifted slightly upward, but only her thin lips could be seen and the smile hovering on her lips revealed a tinge of ruffian style. With his eyes wide open, Xiao Jing still couldn't see the face under the bamboo hat. If I said she bumped into me, then it was she who bumped into me. The girl's voice rang again, I'll punish anyone who offends me. Do you choose to gouge your eyes, or to be punished by me? Her last sentence was clearly directed at Ling Yao. Like a dandy, she spoke in a ruffian manner, although your face isn't pretty enough, your figure is not bad. I'm interested in playing with you. Gee, I'd like to know how it feels when I strip you and whip your beautiful body. Hearing the words of his master, Xiao Mo in the God Code world couldn't help but roll his eyes. He didn't expect that his master would be so good at disguising herself as a man. She could even vividly imitate the ruffian tone. In particular, when she was molesting Ling Yao, people who didn't know her real identity would take her as a real ruffian. Don't go too far, friend. Xiao Jing's face darkened. He really had a streak of bad luck during this trip. At first, he met a crazy woman, and now he met a ruffian. If it were not for the fact that he was seriously injured, he would have sent the guy to hell. Chapter 343, Framing Up 2. Go too far. Young Luo Feng's face shone with a wicked light. Raising her eyebrows, she stared at Xiao Jing in front of her. As a member of the Bai family, I never know what going too far means. This woman wants me to let her go after she bumped into me. In her dreams. At first, Xiao Mo didn't know what his master wanted to do, but now he suddenly figured it out. Framing up. This was all about framing up. Not waiting for the people of the Xiao family to make trouble for Yuan Xiao, his master made some trouble for them to keep them busy. The descendants of the Xiao family and the Ling family were humiliated by a member of the Bai family. How could they easily let go of the Bai family? Thus, she pretended to be a member of the Bai family and tried to foment a dissension between the two sides. It served the Bai family right. They shouldn't have participated in the war of the Lujin kingdom, and they even helped the empress kill her mother. You are from the Bai family. The Bai family of the Lujin kingdom. Not expecting he would meet a member of the Bai family here, Xiao Jing turned pale. Not feeling ashamed of her trick at all, young Luo Feng said assuredly, yes, I am from the Bai family. With Bai Su as our master, do you think we'll be afraid of you? Even though Yun Luofeng didn't know the real identity of Bai Su, she could tell from Yun Xiao's words that Bai Su was special in the Bai family. Therefore, she planted what she did on Bai Su. At this moment, a handsome and evil face popped up in her mind, his narrowed eyes revealing a dangerous light. Bai Su, one day, I will settle with you. Let me make some trouble for the Bai family first. I just need to stand by and watch you fight. Stop him, Xiao Jing ordered the guards of the Xiao family, then grabbed Ling Yao to get out of there. Ling Yao, let's go. You think you can go? Young Luofeng sneered and looked at the guards of the Xiao family who were rushing at her, an icy light flickering across her dark eyes. Then a long sword appeared in her hand. Puff. Young Luofeng quickly passed through the guards of the Xiao family. Very soon, blood spurted from the bodies of those fierce and menacing guards, and they fell stiffly to the ground. Realizing the situation was unfavorable to them, Xiao Jing tried to escape, but in an instant, the figure in a white bamboo hat had appeared in front of them. Swish. The girl waved her long sword. As soon as the sword flashed, Ling Yao's clothes were cut to pieces and scattered in the air. Ah! Ling Yao screamed and quickly covered her body with her arms, with a look of shame and horror. Although there are a lot of scars on your body, I'm still interested in it. Young Luofeng put away the long sword, took out a whip from somewhere, and slowly approached Ling Yao. Looking at the approaching figure, Ling Yao kept retreating, trembling all over. Don't come here, Xiao Jing, help me, ah! Smack. Young Luofeng cracked the whip, and Ling Yao's body immediately bled, with skin split and flesh torn. Stop it. Xiao Jing was going to catch Young Luofeng's whip, but before he reached out his hand, he was knocked off by a spiritual strength and fell backward into a pile of corpses. Covering his chest, Xiao Jing kept spitting blood. He really regretted that he didn't check the lunar calendar to check his fortune before he set out from home. Who knew that there were so many audacious people in the secular world who dared to touch people from the spirit domain? Young Luofeng's eyes fell on Ling Yao and she asked coldly, your identity? Chapter 344, Framing Up 3. Trembling all over, Ling Yao didn't dare to conceal anything from this horrible person, and she bit her lips and said, I'm from the Ling family of the spirit domain, and he is from the Xiao family. Why did you come here? Young Luofeng raised her eyebrows slightly. It was not convenient for her to ask about these things in her previous identity, but now that she had disguised herself as someone from the Bai family, it was time for her to find out their purpose for coming here. Naked, Ling Yao couldn't help but shudder in the cool air. We came here to find the trash that was expelled from the Xiao family more than a decade ago. The trash? Young Luofeng's eyes were getting icy. It was obvious that the trash Ling Yao was talking about was Yuan Xiao. It seemed that the people of the Xiao family didn't know that the ghost emperor was Yuan Xiao. Otherwise, he would not be treated in such a manner. Since you're not from the Xiao family, Young Luofeng paused, why would you come here? On hearing this, Ling Yao seemed to forget her fear. With a disgusted look, she said, that trash of the Xiao family had an engagement with me when we were very young, but the one I love is the first genius of the Xiao family, Xiao Yuqing. I came here to break off the engagement with the trash. And I want my engagement token back. Engagement token? What is that? Yun Luofeng frowned. It's a jade pendant engraved with a Ling, character. Wondering why young Luo Feng asked her this, Ling Yao still answered her in a trembling tone, my grandfather gave that jade pendant to his mother. And before he left the Xiao family, his mother gave it to him. My purpose is to take back the jade pendant. A trash like him doesn't deserve to hold it. Whenever she thought that her own jade pendant was held in the hands of a trash, she felt so disgusted. Smack. Just then, the whip fell on her body again, and she gasped with pain. I've already told you what you want to know. Why will you still not let me go? She roared with rage and shuddered, her eyes filled with grievance and resentment. Of course, Ling Yao didn't know that it was her words that completely enraged young Luo Feng. Her Yun Xiao was so excellent. How could he be humiliated by these lowly people? And she could imagine the treatment that Yun Xiao suffered in the Xiao family when she saw their dismissive eyes. You pervert. Whipped once again, Ling Yao forgot to be shy, lifting her arms that were covering her private parts to catch the oncoming whip. Ah! The whip fell on her arm. It was so painful that Ling Yao burst into tears, her tearful eyes filled with resentment. I swear, when I get back, I'll tell my grandfather about it and let him destroy your Bai family. For the last sentence, Ling Yao roared out with all her might, her face turning ferocious within her rage, her eyes glaring at young Luo Feng like a poisoned dagger. Haha, young Luo Feng sneered, speaking in a domineering tone, others fear the spirit domain, but we in the Bai family don't. I'll see whether your spirit domain has the guts to attack the Bai family. In this sentence, she revealed her real intention. If two tigers fought, there must be a loser. She only needed to see them fight. We'll see. Ling Yao was shaking with anger, I'm not going to let go of your Bai family. Chapter 345, Departure of Yun Xiao 1. Finally getting what she wanted, young Luo Feng stopped torturing Ling Yao. She slowly put away the whip and said with a sneer, all right, then I will wait for you in the Bai family. After saying that, she guffawed, then turned around and left in the direction she had come. After she had left, Xiao Jing dragged his seriously injured body to Ling Yao, took off his clothes and put them on her body. Ling Yao, this Bai family is too presumptuous. We really should teach them a lesson. Gnashing her teeth, Ling Yao stared at the direction in which young Luo Feng had left, her eyes sinister and sharp like a dagger. I swear I will avenge myself. He will have to experience something 1,000 or even 10,000 times worse than what I experienced today. Though the Bai family had Bai Su, so what? She would not easily forgive anyone who had bullied her. Xiao Jing, Ling Yao scrambled to her feet, her eyes sullen, I don't want anyone else to know what happened to me today. If Xiao Yuqing found out that she had been stripped bare in front of other men, he would refuse to marry her. Xiao Jing ruminated and nodded slightly, okay. The marriage between the Xiao family and the Ling family was imperative. If this scandal was known by others, it would hurt the Xiao family's reputation. So he had to conceal what had happened to Ling Yao today. Let's go. Xiao Jing took a last look at the bodies scattered on the ground, his eyes darkening. He supported Ling Yao with his hand, the killing intent in his eyes increasingly intense. Bai family, how dare you provoke us like this? I will make you pay for this. The continent was not peaceful recently. Two of the top 3 families in the spirit domain, the Xiao family and the Ling family, together attacked the Bai family for some reason. However, the Bai family had no clue when it had offended the two families. It happened that Bai Su wasn't with the Bai family during the attack. Therefore, with its own strength, the Bai family couldn't resist the attack of the two families. However, for some reason, the two families of the spirit domain didn't drive the Bai family into a corner but soon retreated. As the one behind this disturbance, young Luo Feng wasn't affected by it at all. Every day, she flirted with Yun Xiao, cultivated, or teased the nagging Xiao Mo as if nothing had happened. At this moment, in the backyard of the general's estate, the man silently gazed at the girl lying on a chaise longue, his dark eyes glowing with deep affection. Were you behind the dispute between the Xiao family and the Bai family? Yes, said young Luo Feng, slightly raising the corners of her lips, the Bai family was involved in my mother's death and the Xiao family had hurt you, so I fomented the dispute between the two parties. A wave of warmth swept through Yun Xiao, as he knew that young Luo Feng did it to avenge him. That day, he witnessed how the people of the Xiao family left the Longyuan kingdom like drowned rats. I want to ask you something, Yun Xiao. Young Luo Feng's face turned solemn and her eyes were fixed on the man standing beside her. What's your relationship with the Ling family? Yuan Xiao glanced at Yun Luofeng with doubt. What's my relationship with the Ling family? This was Yun Luofeng's question for him, and he asked the same question to Yun Luofeng because he really didn't know what relationship he had with the Ling family. With a wicked look, Yun Luofeng leaned lazily against the chaise longue, and asked in a casual tone, I heard that Ling Yao of the Ling family is your fiance. Yuan Xiao shook his head, frowning, I don't know her and I've never heard of the fiance thing. Did that Ling Yao tell you this? Chapter 346. Departure of Yuan Xiao 2. Yun Luofeng said with a smile, not only did she tell me that you and she were engaged when you were kids, but that you had an engagement token in your hand. Is that true? Yuan Xiao thought about it and shook his head, I've never heard of it. Did she tell you what the engagement token was? A jade pendant engraved with the Ling character. Yuan Xiao was silent, frowning as if he was trying to recall it. However, he couldn't recall what the jade pendant looked like even though he had racked his brain. I don't have a jade pendant like she described. When he left the Xiao family, he took nothing with him, not to mention a jade pendant. So he really didn't have the jade pendant, Yun Luofeng said. Yun Luofeng glanced at Yuan Xiao. When you left, your mother didn't give you something? No, Yuan Xiao answered very firmly, his dark eyes filled with sincerity and earnestness. Trust me, I didn't have that kind of relationship with her. Certainly, Yun Luofeng would believe Yuan Xiao's words, but it didn't look like Ling Yao was lying. Then there was only one possibility. Yuan Xiao's mother didn't give him the jade pendant. It's all right, said Yun Luofeng, crossing her legs. She moved her stiff shoulders and asked in a lazy voice, Yuan Xiao, could you massage my shoulders? Pursing his lips, Yuan Xiao silently walked to Yun Luofeng, his hands falling on the girl's shoulders. Looking from behind, he could see the girl's jade-like skin through her thin clothes. Yuan Xiao felt his heartbeat was accelerating. Staring at her in a daze, he couldn't move his eyes away from the girl's body. Yuan Xiao, not feeling his movement, Yun Luofeng turned around to check what happened. After seeing the aggressive eyes of the man behind her, she slightly narrowed her eyes, the smile on her lips releasing a dangerous aura. Do you want to see what's under my clothes? Yes. As an honest man, Yuan Xiao would not lie, be it in action or in words. He wanted to see her body, so he was honest about what he had in mind. The smile on the girl's face spread, and she rose from the chaise longue and took a few steps towards the man. Then, do you want me to strip off before you? Boom. The girl's ambiguous words and her provocative movements made the man's blood rush into his brain. In an instant, his body was aroused. Even though the two of them had slept together, Yun Luofeng had never been naked in front of Yuan Xiao. She was in her pajamas even in the bed. No wonder on hearing her words, Yuan Xiao would have such a strong sexual impulse. Feeling the sharp rhythm of the man's breathing, Yun Luofeng chuckled, Yuan Xiao, I'm just teasing you. I will not strip off before you, until we've settled the issue with the Xiao family. Thinking of the Xiao family's insult to Yuan Xiao, Yun Luofeng felt a strong killing intent, an icy light flickering in her dark eyes. The Xiao family. What she had done to the Xiao family was just the beginning, and she would let the people of the Xiao family live in regret. Make them feel better off dead. Yuan Xiao looked at the stunningly beautiful face of the girl, a light flickering across his cold dark eyes. His eyes were still as deep and dark as night, so nobody could tell what was in this man's mind. The next day. At dawn, Yun Luofeng pushed the door open after finishing the morning wash. Suddenly, a gray figure waiting in the doorway was reflected in her eyes. Chapter 347. Departure of Yuan Xiao 3. Mistress, good morning. Qin Yuan laughed awkwardly and said, my master asked me to wait for you here, and he left you a message. For some reason, looking at Qin Yuan's expression, Yun Luofeng got a bad feeling. Where is Yuan Xiao? She asked, frowning. Qin Yuan rubbed his hair. Master went to the spirit domain because he wanted to return to the Xiao family. Return to the Xiao family? Why? Yun Luofeng was stunned and asked, her eyebrows knitted. Qin Yuan looked even more embarrassed. Mistress, Master asked me to tell you that he would wipe out the Xiao family as soon as possible and, don't forget to keep your promise to him. What promise? Well, Mistress, you said that you would strip before Master after the Xiao family was wiped out. In saying this, Qin Yuan blushed, and he couldn't imagine that his cruel master would say such a shameful thing. In particular, just to make mistress strip off before him, he went to the spirit domain alone, a place so dangerous. It seemed that the mistress was very important in master's mind. That idiot, young Luo Feng shook her head helplessly. Why does he just believe every single word I say? He returned to the Xiao family just because of a joke of mine. As if thinking of something, Qin Yuan forgot how embarrassing it was, and his face turned anxious. Mistress, though master didn't want me to tell you, I think I should let you know that it might be dangerous for master to return to the Xiao family. Young Luo Feng felt like her heart missed a beat. What's the matter? Shouldn't Yuan Xiao be able to cope with the Xiao family with his strength? Mistress, Qin Yuan shook his head. Indeed, master is very powerful, but the master of the Xiao family held a thing in his hand that may endanger master's life. Young Luo Feng's face changed, her dark eyes suddenly darkening. Why didn't Yuan Xiao tell me about this before I provoked the Xiao family? Qin Yuan answered with a wry smile. Mistress, you are too important in master's mind. As long as you are happy, he wouldn't mind putting himself in a dangerous situation. That fool. Hearing Qin Yuan's words, young Luo Feng couldn't help but scold Yuan Xiao in her mind. In her 2 lives, she had never seen a person so stupid. However, she was always moved by this stupid man. Give me a map of the spirit domain, said young Luo Feng, breathing deeply. Oh, Qin Yuan was stunned. Mistress, why do you want to go to the spirit domain? Of course to find that fool Yuan Xiao. How could she just leave that fool alone after she had caused all of this? She was going to go to the spirit domain no matter how dangerous it would be. Qin Yuan got nervous and then embarrassedly said, Mistress, I don't think that's a good idea. If master knew that I told you about this, he would cut me into pieces. Young Luo Feng glanced at Qin Yuan grimly and threateningly said, do you choose to be cut into pieces by him or dismembered alive by me? Trust me, my means will only be more bloody than Yuan Xiao's. I will not let you die until you shed your last drop of blood. Qin Yuan shivered and looked frightened. He regretted it. He regretted telling mistress about this. If master knew about it, he would not let him off lightly. Finally, gritting his teeth, Qin Yuan said, Mistress, please wait a moment. I'm going to prepare the map of the spirit domain for you. Chapter 348, A Sneak Attack. Anyway, if master got angry, with mistress interceding for him, he would surely be able to escape death. However, if he refused to give the roadmap to mistress now, he would probably be tortured to death. At the thought of this, Qin Yuan had made up his mind. Without any hesitation, he hurried to find the roadmap for young Luo Feng. Qin Yuan knew that master's order didn't count compared with the words of mistress that were like an imperial edict. Even master had to obey her words. So, if he could please mistress, he didn't have to fear that master would punish him. The more Qin Yuan thought about it, the more complacent he was, and the more efficient he was. Soon, he found the roadmap and submitted it to young Luo Feng. Mistress, this is the roadmap to the spirit domain. I promised master that I would protect you, so I will go with you this time. Qin Yuan was as obsequious as a pug, and if he had a tail he would have wagged it now. No, young Luo Feng put away the roadmap. You stay here to protect the Yun family, and I'll go to the spirit domain alone. But, Qin Yuan frowned, there are so many strong men in the spirit domain that I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it alone. Young Luo Feng glanced at Qin Yuan grimly, are you defying my order? Good, when Yuan Xiao comes back, I'll tell him that you're not doing your job well enough and that he should punish you. Qin Yuan put on a bitter face and grumbled, Mistress, if you go to the spirit domain alone, I will be so worried about you. If something bad happens to you, master won't let me off lightly. Don't worry, he won't punish you if I don't let him. But if you don't obey my order, you'll be better off dead. The girl's voice was calm and peaceful, but Qin Yuan felt his heart missed a beat. Mistress, even if you're going to punish me, I'll still follow you, Qin Yuan said with a bitter smile. After all, I've promised master that I'll keep you safe. Swish. Suddenly, a silver needle flew in from the front and pierced into the body of Qin Yuan. In an instant, he was unable to move as if he was subject to an immobilization spell. He could do nothing but stare at young Luo Feng anxiously. Mistress, you cannot go to the spirit domain alone. Young Luo Feng smiled to Qin Yuan. In an hour, the needle in your body will naturally fall off, and then you will be free to move. During this time, I'm sorry you'll have to be like this. Mistress. Qin Yuan looked more anxious. If he had known it, he would not have told Mistress about it. Qin Yuan, I'll go to the spirit domain alone, and I don't know when I will come back, but I'm worried about the safety of the Yun family. Only with you protecting them here can I feel assured. Besides, you have to watch Si Chong. Without your surveillance, we can't be sure that he won't make trouble for us. Qin Yuan tried to force the needle out of his body with spiritual strength but failed. He should not have been so carelessness, but he didn't expect that Yun Luofeng would give him a sneak attack. Please, Yun Luofeng earnestly looked at Qin Yuan, who was sweating all over in anxiety. Please take care of the Yun family, my grandfather and my second uncle for me. Don't worry, when Yun Xiao and I come back, I will plead with him for you. Qin Yuan was speechless, as he knew that no matter what he said, Yun Luofeng wouldn't free him. He put on a bitter smile. Mistress, since you have already made up your mind, what can I say? If you really want to find Master, go ahead. I will protect the Yun family for you. Chapter 349. The Xiao clan, Yun Xiao. Thank you, Yun Luofeng said sincerely, with gratitude in her black eyes. Qin Yuan's body stiffened and he said with a wry smile, Mistress, my master is your man, so it's my duty to do whatever you ordered. You really don't need to thank me. He knew that no matter how she threatened him, she would not really do anything so cruel to him. Though Mistress seemed domineering outside and would beat anyone she didn't like without hesitation, she was very nice to people on her own side. Otherwise, she would not have said, thank you, to him. It was because Mistress was such a person that he was willing to obey her orders. Tell my grandfather, I will come back in half a year or up to 2 or 3 years. Yun Luofeng finally looked at Qin Yuan and walked out of the door. She knew that if she told her grandfather that she was going to go to the spirit domain, he wouldn't allow it. So she could only leave without saying goodbye. The spirit domain. Perhaps because the descendants of the Xiao family and the Ling family had been bullied outside, now the whole spirit domain was not very peaceful. At this moment, in the hall of the Xiao family estate, a serious-looking old man was sitting upright, and a man and a woman were seated next to him. The middle-aged man was dressed in a blue robe, his eyes sullen, and he glanced at the man standing aloof in the hall with a disgusted look. Beside him sat a coquettish woman, whose face revealed a bright smile, but her eyes were as sharp as a viper. When stared at by her, one would feel uneasy as if targeted by a viper. Shower, we have had you come back for 2 purposes, the old man said with a serious look, his eyes as cold and sharp as a dagger. Firstly, soon Xiao Yuqing will succeed me as the master of our family. You were expelled from the Xiao family, and your name was removed from our genealogy, so you are not eligible to participate in this event. However, Xiao Yuqing must open the secret area of the Xiao family if he wants to inherit the position. And the price of opening the secret area is the power of blood of 10 disciples of the Xiao family. Inside the hall, the man was silent, his handsome face expressionless, his callous black eyes coldly staring at the old man sitting high, and he gave no reaction to his words. We had chosen 10 disciples with great powers of blood, but one of them was accidentally killed in a mission some time ago. Thus, we had to contact you via the power of the blood. Today, there were only 10 disciples in the Xiao family whose powers of blood were strong enough to open the secret area. The powers of blood of the rest of the disciples were too weak to open the secret area. Thus, the Xiao family thought of Yun Xiao, who had already left the Xiao family. In that year, the blood test showed that Yun Xiao had a strong power of blood, so the Xiao family placed high hopes on him. However, it turned out that this man was just a trash. Even Xiao Lin, the master of the Xiao family, didn't understand why Yun Xiao, whose power of blood was so strong, was a trash. What's more, nobody had a greater power of blood than he did in the whole Xiao family. Secondly, Xiao Lin paused and then continued, to annul the engagement between you and Ling Yao. She and Xiao Yuqing love each other. Even if you insist on marrying Ling Yao, she wouldn't be willing to marry you. Then why should you ask for an insult? With your poor aptitude, you are simply not qualified to represent our Xiao family and marry the heiress of the Ling family. Chapter 350. The Xiao clan, Yun Xiao 2. Shaolin always believed that the trash would not be willing to break off the engagement with Ling Yao, who was an excellent girl and the little princess of the Ling family anyway. However, he didn't expect that Yuan Shao was no longer a trash. Even if he were still a trash, he would not choose Ling Yao. Young Luo Feng was the only person in his mind. Good. Yuan Shao, who had been silent for a long time, immediately agreed after hearing his words, his voice as cold as ever. Hearing the man's words, everyone present felt relieved. They were afraid that Yuan Shao would cling to it after learning about his engagement with Ling Yao. Fortunately, this trash knew himself well. He knew he didn't deserve the little princess of the Ling family. In that case, hand in the engagement token. Relieved as well, Shaolin said in a tone not as harsh as just now. Yuan Shao frowned. I don't have any engagement token. His words made all the people present turn pale. The middle-aged man sitting next to Shaolin jumped to his feet, his face ghastly pale. Nonsense. Your bloody mother must have given you the token. Hand it in. I know, you just don't want to break off the engagement with Ling Yao. But you have forgotten that the heiress of the Ling family would never choose a trash like you. In his opinion, Yuan Shao wouldn't hand in the token because he was not willing to break off the engagement. Hearing the angry voice of the middle-aged man, Yuan Shao gave him a cold glance. This man was his father. But in his mind, he was not his son, but a mortal enemy. And if it weren't for taking back that thing, he would have wiped out the whole Shao family. I will break off the engagement. Yuan Shao paused, and I don't think I have any engagement with her. The only woman he wanted to marry was young Luo Feng. All other women had no difference with a pile of bones in his eyes. You want to break off the engagement? Then hand in the engagement token, the middle-aged man sneered, his eyes filled with disgust and sarcasm. Why not hand in the engagement token? Do you really want it, or is this just a clumsy excuse? Seeing her husband getting furious, the coquettish woman hurried to rub his chest to comfort him, and her beautiful face was full of contempt. My dear husband, this boy is just a trash. The engagement with the little princess of the Ling family must be a blessing he earned from his 8 previous lives. A person like him would definitely not miss this good opportunity. Unfortunately, the little princess of the Ling family only loves my son Yuqing. This trash simply has no chance. He was just a trash. What made him believe the Xiao family would accept him even though they were calling him back? If it were not for her son, the Xiao family would not allow him to take a single step into the Xiao family. Her son was so excellent. Not only was he called the first genius of the spirit domain, but he also attracted so much attention that every woman in the world would compete for his love, while this trash could only get sarcastic comments. Hardly had her voice faded away when Yuan Shao gave her a cold look. It made her feel like she had fallen into hell and she was frozen with terror. No, that was impossible. The coquettish woman bit her lips, her delicate body trembling. How could this trash be so intimidating? Just now, she felt as if she was going to be strangled, and her heart even missed a beat. Not knowing what had happened, the middle-aged man tightly held the coquettish woman's trembling body, and tenderly asked her, Yue, what happened?